And welcome back to the show. We'll be taking you right away from here until the president arrives in Parliament, and then we'll go live there to Parliament. But if there's any developing story in Parliament, we'll take you there right away. Right now, I'm here in the studio with legal practitioner Bobby Banson, who will be doing some expectations and analysis of 2020 SONA. Mr. Bobby Banson, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I want you to join us with your thoughts. I'll share with you our WhatsApp number. Well, that's our WhatsApp number. We'll drop our WhatsApp number on the screen for you. I want to hear you. What do you want the president to talk about? What do you want to take center stage? I mean, the speech is already done. But what do you want to take center stage when the president mounts that stage to talk to you? If what he did last year is anything to go by, he started on a very interesting, peaceful note, peace-building note, I should say, and he was referring to what he had done in Yendi at the time. You remember that Yendi was a big deal. I mean, the peace process there was a big deal. And so the President's State of the Nation address last year was started on Yendi. And if that's anything to go by, we don't know what will be at the beginning for him today. He went on to talk about decentralization, in which he spoke about creation of new regions, etc. I mean, there are the pros and cons of that particular thing. We'll talk about that as well. And then the big elephant, which is the economy. He spoke about the economy, and under the economy, you can do the economy for an entire day. So the president went on, he spoke about the economy, from decentralization, he talked about the economy, and then we went to, well, perhaps the NPP's favorite subject, if you like, of analysis, education. In education, it's a big deal for them because they talk a lot about the free SHS. And so I'm just giving you an outline of what the president did last year. And we're saying that if that's anything to go by, perhaps he may be doing the same. But it'll be interesting. For me, it's interesting the way it is arranged, because it gives you the things that it tells you, it gives you an idea, the things that the government considers important. So from education, the president went on, tied it beautifully into health. And in health, we can talk about so many things. We can talk about doctor and nurse recruitment, which is a big deal. We can talk about unposted nurses who have been picketing and who have had to be arrested at some point. We can talk about NHIS, you know, that debate about NHIS. We can talk about infrastructure, health infrastructure. He tied it in from infrastructure straight. He went into housing, and then he talked about the deficit. The also old deficit, the deficit that's been with us as long as corruption has been with us, I should say. And then from housing, he talked about keeping ourselves clean. Sanitation. That is one of the things that he talked about. Well, in health, I think I forgot to mention the ambulances. We should expect to hear a lot on the ambulances as well. From sanitation, he went on to talk about creative arts, and from there, he went on and on and on and on with energy, etc. What are your expectations? In Parliament, we see a black and white setup. So I'm coming to my guest in the studio, Mr. Bobby Banson. It's good to have you once again. Thank you so much for coming. And I see you smiling, you know, at the things that I'm listing, the outline of the President's State of the Nation address. This is the crucial one for him. In just a few months, we'll be going into an election. This is his last before he goes into the next election. I'm curious to find out what your thoughts and expectations are.
Well, to take on from where you ended, being the last one, and we all know the president will be putting himself up for re-election, I expect that he would project to beyond 2020, at least what should be expected of him. My expectation is that with the State of the Nation, the president will tell us where we are coming from, especially from his address to Parliament and Ghanaians last year, where we are and where we would go, at least by the end of 2020. And I do not think that there will be a lot of divergent views on where the subject matters that we expect the president to touch on, except that the content is what there will be some divergence in terms of his, or what he would tell us is the true state of affairs and where we have been. That is mostly where there's a lot of contention. But I believe the president, this is his fourth one, has gathered a lot of experience over time with delivering such addresses and being the parliamentarian.
Sorry to interrupt, but when you say experience, do you mean experience as in being in Parliament and saying it out there, or experience in terms of how to manage the content? Because we know that the content, I believe the contents are put together by the various ministries, the various sectors, you know, and then they bring it all together for the president to present. So when you say experience, I'm wondering, is it content or delivery?
No, not the content. Definitely the content is not something that you can massage to a large extent, because like you said, it's a collection of the feedback from the various government ministries and departments, and so you would have little to do in respect of it. But in terms of the delivery, he would definitely be used to the jeers and the boos and whatever that has gone on, especially him having been in parliament for so many years before he assumed the high office of a president. Right. So I expect, I mean, the president is someone that we know has a very good, he's a like we say in our legal parlance, a very senior advocate. Okay. And then there is no doubt that he will be able to deliver in terms of what we've come to expect him to do over the years in his private life as a lawyer, and then since he assumed the high office. And so I expect a very good delivery, as always, but the content is something that we all wait to see. We all wait to see. A
lot of people have said that when it comes to the delivery, the president, you know, is on top of his game. But they've always said, like you mentioned, the content. What's in it? Will it please people? Will it be what people want to hear? Or what has to be said? Will it be what government wants us to hear? Or the real state of the nation?
Well, I think that what the state of the nation is, it's very, very subjective. Okay. Depending on which lens you have on, economically, politically, we can't take that away from us. What the market woman's, I mean, the woman in the market's analysis of the true state of the nation may be different from what a government appointee may see as the true state of the nation. So we cannot take away from the fact that it's a very subjective subject, and people would have different views based on the economic or the political lenses they have on. But at the end of the day, we cannot hide from certain basic factors, and we expect. For example, last year there were some areas that were not touched on by the president. I believe last year, if my memory serves me right, at the State of the Nation, he did not touch on the missing girls.
No, he didn't.
He did. There was a very important subject that was,
I think,
for lack of a better word, I would say trending
as well.
Yes, that he did not touch on. So that, you know, rose a lot of eyebrows to say this is very important. We are at the peak of it, and the president did not talk about it. I forgot what the subject matter was. But I believe that is why I say that coming from that experience, that having received the backlash for not touching on certain salient matters. For example, we will all be surprised if the president's State of the Nation address does not speak to the Galamsey issue. We would all be very surprised. So that is one thing that every Ghanaian expects to be there. We'll be very surprised if the president's State of the Nation's address does not speak to issues relating to health, particularly the ambulances that have been released and what they are going to do. We'll be very surprised if issues such as corruption is not touched on. And so generally we would understand, or we would all agree on what the content would be to a very large extent. What the subject matters should be. But as to the analysis of it is what there may be variance in terms of people's understanding and appreciation.
Well, I personally think that we should expect today in Parliament, we should expect the minority to be at its heckling best already.
Well, last year they were not.
They weren't, but they still had some placards, even though there was a sort of ban against showing placards in the House. They did have it. So I expect them to be at their heckling best. I expect the majority to be at their cheering best of the president, and we've already seen that. We've seen a black and white parliament today. The minority in their black dresses, the majority in their white dresses. And I'm not sure, when you look at, I mean, in terms of, since we're talking about delivery, in terms of delivery and the entire outlook, what does it present to you as a Ghanaian? Do you see a sharply divided House that would not agree on anything except what benefits them individually? Or do you see something that's pretty normal in every parliament, the usual opposition that's necessary for good debate?
Well, I want to be careful what I say on this before I'm cited for contempt.
As long as I don't think we are there.
I know. I'm just, but be that as it may. Well, it's since the 1992 Constitution, the Fourth Republic came into being, we've always experienced this with a very sharp division, clear lines as to what the minority's opinion is and what the majority's opinion is. It's like there's already a prepared mind, and very whatever the president says or does will not satisfy the other side, you know. And as a Ghanaian, you begin to shut. But I believe that over the years, there are more discerning listeners to these things. There are people who are becoming more objective, and sort of sitting on the fence and waiting to actually see how it will go before they commit to say anything and share their opinion on it. Well, it would have been nice to see one side having red, gold, green colors to show that it's actually the true state, the colors of the country, instead of going pure black and white. But they choose to go that route, and we would have to wait to see. Like I said, I have an opinion.
As we wait to see, I know I'm interrupting you, and I mean, some of these things are the things you should expect on a discussion like this, on a day like this. I'm taking you back to Parliament. And one of the things I'm expecting to see is the Speaker to be at his strict best. So we're going back.